Welcome back to Speak Up. If you're new here, we're so glad you joined us. And if you've been with us before, thank you for coming back. Before we dive in, hit subscribe. It really helps this podcast reach more people who want to grow and learn alongside you.
Today, we're talking about something we all struggle with: how to stay motivated every single day. It's easy to start strong, but harder to keep going. And that's why this episode matters, because we'll share simple ways to keep your energy and focus alive, even on the tough days.
Think about it. Motivation shapes how you start your mornings, how you face challenges, and how you end your day. If you've ever felt stuck or unmotivated, what we'll share today can help you shift that.
So stay with us. By the end of this episode, you'll have clear, practical steps to bring steady motivation into your daily life. Let's get started.
You know, when people talk about motivation, they often describe it like this big, powerful rush, like a spark of excitement that makes you want to run forward. And yes, sometimes it feels that way. But honestly, most days, motivation doesn't look like a dramatic movie scene. It's quieter. It's that small decision to get up, even when you'd rather stay in bed. It's choosing to do the next step, even when you don't feel like it. And I think that's where people get confused. We expect motivation to always feel huge. But in real life, it's often steady, simple, almost ordinary.
Exactly. That's such an important point. Motivation isn't always loud or exciting. Sometimes it's just that gentle push you give yourself when the energy isn't naturally there. And if you've ever noticed, those big bursts of motivation, the ones that feel like adrenaline, they don't last very long. They can carry you for a day or two, but then what? That's when many of us feel stuck, wondering if something is wrong. But nothing's wrong. Real, lasting motivation is more like a steady rhythm than a sudden spark. And when we understand that, we can stop chasing a feeling and start building a habit.
Yeah, and when you think about it that way, it changes everything. Instead of waiting for that perfect mood or perfect timing, you learn to show up no matter what. It's kind of like the difference between a lightning strike and a candle. Lightning is dramatic, but gone in a flash. A candle, though, it burns slowly, steadily, and lights the room over time. That's the kind of motivation that actually carries you through the ups and downs of daily life. And when you recognize that, you stop blaming yourself for not feeling motivated all the time, because that's not really how motivation works.
I love that candle image. It's so true. And I think everyone listening has felt both sides of it. Maybe there was a day when you felt on fire, full of energy, full of ideas, but then the next day it disappeared and you wondered why. Or maybe you've had those weeks where you didn't feel that fire at all, yet somehow you still kept going. Those moments are proof that motivation doesn't need to be dramatic. It's already there, in the quiet choices. Sometimes it's just harder to notice. But if you start paying attention, you realize those small decisions are what keep you moving.
And that's the part I find fascinating. Motivation isn't about avoiding those low-energy days. It's about navigating them differently. When we expect motivation to always feel exciting, we set ourselves up for disappointment. But when we treat it like a practice, something we choose again and again, even in tiny ways, it becomes reliable. And that's when motivation turns from something mysterious into something real. It's no longer about waiting, it's about choosing. And that choice can happen in the smallest, simplest moment of your day.
Yes, and I think that's the heart of it. Motivation isn't about magic or luck. It's about recognizing that even when you don't feel like moving, you still have the ability to take one step. And that step counts. In fact, it might matter more than the days when you feel unstoppable, because those small, steady steps are what carry you through the hard seasons and shape your life over time. So if you've ever doubted yourself for not feeling motivated enough, maybe it's time to let go of that pressure. Motivation is already in you. It's just quieter than you think.
You know, mornings really do set the stage for how the rest of the day unfolds. I've noticed that when I wake up and immediately get pulled into noise, emails, notifications, rushing around, the whole day feels scattered. But on the mornings when I start slower, when I give myself even a few minutes to breathe, the rhythm of the day feels completely different. It's like choosing the soundtrack before the song begins. That first note matters. And it doesn't have to be some big, complicated ritual. It can be something really small, but intentional.
I completely get that. For me, it's often the smallest actions that make the biggest difference. Like if I drink a glass of water, stretch a little, or just sit quietly for a few minutes before diving into the day, I feel more grounded. It's not about doing 10 things at once or chasing some perfect morning routine. It's about finding that one gentle action that tells your mind and body, okay, we're starting fresh. That feeling of calm at the beginning creates momentum that carries you through the hours ahead.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us fall into the trap of thinking motivation has to come from this burst of intensity, like you've got to jump out of bed ready to conquer the world. But that kind of energy is so hard to sustain. Real motivation often grows out of stillness, not chaos. I've learned that when I set a gentle tone in the morning, even just by doing something as simple as writing down one thing I want to focus on, it creates clarity. And that clarity is what builds momentum. Not force, not pressure, just focus.
That's so true. And I think what's beautiful is that everyone can find their own version of this. For some, it might be journaling a few thoughts. For others, it might be a quiet walk or even just making the bed. These small grounding actions aren't about productivity for the sake of being productive. They're about creating a moment that feels like yours, a reminder that you're in control of how you begin, even if the rest of the day gets messy. Starting gently doesn't slow you down, it actually helps you move with more steadiness.
And I guess what it comes down to is choice. You can choose to let the day pull you into its chaos, or you can choose to pause for just a few moments and create your own rhythm first. It's such a small shift, but it changes everything. Those first few minutes in the morning can be like setting the direction of a compass. Even if things get off track later, you know where you want to go. And that little sense of direction can keep you moving forward instead of feeling lost.
Exactly. And I think that's why mornings hold so much quiet power. They remind us that we don't have to start with intensity to create a meaningful day. We can start with gentleness, with presence, with something that grounds us. And from that place, motivation grows naturally. So even if life feels heavy, even if you wake up tired, one small grounding action in the morning can shift the tone. It's not about perfection. It's about giving yourself a beginning that feels human, steady, and kind.
You know, one thing I think we don't talk about enough is how normal it is for motivation to fade. We expect ourselves to feel driven all the time, but that's just not realistic. Some mornings you wake up heavy, or maybe you start the day fine, but by afternoon, everything feels harder than it should. And instead of giving ourselves grace, we immediately think, what's wrong with me? But nothing's wrong. Those dips aren't failures. They're signals. They're our mind and body telling us, hey, something needs attention here.
Yes, exactly. And I think that shift in perspective is so important. When motivation fades, it's not the universe saying you're weak or lazy. It's often a gentle nudge. Maybe you need rest, or maybe you're overwhelmed and need to break things down into something smaller. I've noticed when I fight against those dips, I just end up more frustrated. But when I pause and listen, even briefly, I can usually find one small step forward. And that single step is often enough to keep me from feeling stuck.
It's so true. I've had days where I tried to push through to force myself into big leaps when my energy was already low, and honestly, it backfired. I ended up more drained and sometimes even gave up altogether. But when I shifted to focusing on something tiny, like making one phone call, writing one line, or even just taking a short walk, it changed the whole picture. That one step didn't solve everything, but it gave me a little spark to keep going. It's almost like proving to yourself that you're still moving, even if it's slower than usual.
Yes, and I think that's the gentle truth we often forget. Slow movement is still movement. Progress doesn't always look impressive on the outside, but inside it matters deeply. And when motivation fades, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is take the smallest possible action instead of waiting for the energy to magically return. I've learned that those small actions, even something as ordinary as tidying a corner of the room, can create a sense of relief and momentum. It's not about speed, it's about refusing to stop altogether.
Exactly. And I think that's the reassuring part for anyone listening right now. Fading motivation doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean you've lost your way. It just means you're human. And in those moments, instead of asking, why am I not motivated? Maybe the better question is, what's the one thing I can do right now? That shift keeps you from spiraling into self-blame. Because the truth is, it's not the big leaps that carry us through life. It's the small, steady steps we choose on the days when everything feels heavy.
Yes, and when you see it that way, the dips lose their power to discourage you. They become part of the rhythm, not something to be afraid of. Everyone has pauses, everyone feels resistance, but those moments don't define you. What defines you is how gently you respond to yourself in those spaces. Choosing kindness, choosing one step, choosing to keep going. That's what makes motivation sustainable. And maybe that's the reminder we all need. Fading isn't failing. It's just part of being alive, and we're allowed to meet it with patience.
You know, I've noticed that sometimes it's not my mindset that's the problem, it's my environment. If I sit at my desk and it's cluttered with yesterday's coffee mug, random papers, and my phone buzzing with notifications, I can feel my motivation just shrink. But when I clear the space, maybe light a candle, or even open the window for fresh air, it's like my brain gets permission to breathe. Our surroundings send us subtle signals, and often they either drain us or spark us forward.
That really resonates, Ryan. For me, rhythm plays such a big role too. I notice that when my days feel scattered and unpredictable, my energy dips. But when I create a gentle rhythm, like starting work at a certain time, pausing for tea in the afternoon, or even playing the same soft playlist while writing, it steadies me. The predictability itself creates motivation. It's not about forcing productivity, but about finding a flow that feels safe and supportive.
Yes, exactly. It's like motivation thrives on familiarity. I've tried the whole shake things up to stay inspired approach, but honestly, too much change just leaves me restless. On the other hand, a consistent rhythm becomes almost like muscle memory. I don't have to think about getting motivated because the environment and routine are already nudging me along. Even something as small as setting my notebook on the desk the night before can make the morning start smoother.
I love that point. It takes away the pressure of willpower. I think sometimes we expect ourselves to summon motivation out of thin air, when really our environment can do half the work. For instance, I keep my yoga mat unrolled in the corner of my room. Just seeing it there reminds me to stretch, even if only for 5 minutes. That small shift in the physical space changes my behavior without a long debate in my head.
That's such a good example, Priya. I feel like we often underestimate the power of these cues. Like, if I want to read more, I'll leave a book on the couch where I usually sit. If I want to write more, I'll open a blank document before I go to bed so it's ready in the morning. These little rhythms, paired with intentional surroundings, almost become like a gentle partner that keeps me moving, even on the days when my internal motivation feels shaky.
Yes, and it's comforting too. It's like creating a rhythm and space that whispers, "You're safe here. You can try again." To me, that's the heart of sustainable motivation. Not a constant chase for energy, but building an environment that quietly carries us forward. And when we treat our surroundings and habits as allies, motivation stops being something we search for. It becomes something we live inside of.
You know, Sarah, one thing I've noticed is how different motivation feels when it's shared. Like, when I'm working alone, it can sometimes feel heavy, like I'm dragging my feet. But the moment I talk to someone about what I'm working on or hear their energy about their own goals, something shifts. It's lighter, almost like the weight spreads out between us. Have you felt that too?
Absolutely, Ryan. It's like when you go for a walk with a friend. The same distance feels easier, even enjoyable, compared to walking it alone. Connection doesn't just add encouragement, it changes the whole emotional texture of the experience. It reminds us we're not meant to carry our motivation in isolation.
Yes, and I think that's why progress feels more meaningful when it's witnessed. It doesn't even have to be big. Sometimes just texting a friend, "I wrote a page today," or hearing them say, "I went for a run," creates this unspoken cycle of energy. We lift each other without even realizing it.
Exactly. And that cycle keeps momentum alive in such a natural way. Motivation becomes less about willpower and more about togetherness. It's like lighting one candle from another. The flame doesn't weaken, it multiplies. That's the beauty of shared progress. It's renewable.
I love that image, one candle lighting another. And it makes me think, maybe the best way to sustain motivation isn't to grit our teeth harder, but to let others in, to say, walk with me a while. That shift can be so powerful.
Yes, and for anyone listening, that's the heart of it. Motivation is easier when it's connected. Whether it's a friend, a community, or even sharing a small win online, you're part of something bigger. And that belonging can carry you on days when your own spark feels dim.
You know, after walking through all of this, from the sparks of motivation to the gentle ways we can nurture it, I'm reminded that we don't have to do it perfectly. What matters is noticing those moments, big or small, when we choose to keep going. Thank you so much for spending this time with us today. We really hope it feels meaningful and worth your while.
Yes, thank you for being here with us. We've truly tried to make your time valuable, and it means a lot that you chose to share part of your day listening in. Remember, you're not alone in navigating the ups and downs of motivation. We're all figuring it out together. Take care, and we'll see you in the next episode.